Okay, we're back for part 4, and what we're going to do now is we're going to get into what determined the conference, because we won conference that year, and that was the first time since 1967 that New Haven won conference. That was the year they had Wally Shear and Gary Gerling and Rich Bruni and Brad Borkeding and a bunch of other ones, Roland Lutz, and St. James I don't know if they were undefeated at the time or not. It was about the time we were all playing each other. But St. James had a guy that was near the top of the scoring, along with me, Waymeyer, and Obermark. We were all kind of in that 19 to 20, 18 range. And they were pretty good. I think they may have been picked, or Owensville picked to win conference, I think, that year. But so we had St. James up. And I don't know how you guys were. That game there, I was probably more pumped up than any other one so far, because I knew what it meant on our path of, because that was one of our main goals, obviously go to state, but we wanted to win conference as we were going through. And I don't know if you were, it's not, obviously it wasn't, it could have been much more charged atmosphere in the auditorium, but we were supposed to play them on a Friday night, and midway through the JV game, excuse me, the power went out and they could not get it back on. I don't know if it was related just to the school area or the whole town. Do you guys remember going home if it?
I think it was storming out and power had gone out in part of town.
Was it a winter storm or was it just thunderstorm?
Thunderstorm.
Okay. Because I think if I remember correctly, even leaving, we didn't have the power. Never came back on.
It seems like it was still out here, and outside it was still dark, if I remember right. It seems like it.
And again, taking a drink here, if you hear me, reliving the past, drinking some Lucille Bailey special blend Kool-Aid with a thing of cherry and a thing of lemonade and 2 cups of sugar in a gallon jug. Really good. I'm gonna have to have another glass before I give it to Derek to take home. But so
put it on the market.
You think we can market that? I got another idea too, but it's good. It has it. It just. I knew there was always something about it, but I didn't know the lemonade trick until Vera relayed it to Dawn.
Yeah.
So did you guys say, hey, we needed some more bite in here, or?
No, they just made
it that way. So
it's a good combination.
So I was talking to Mr. Moran, and I see him at the gym. Bob Moran. I always still call him Mr. Moran. I've always liked him, but. In the newspaper article, he said they were going to give refunds back, but there was really no way to determine other than honesty, or who paid, who didn't.
Yeah.
I was like, why would people? What was it, $2 a buck to get in at the time? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Why would anyone complain anyway? But we played the following Thursday, so we were up, and this was here, and I remember the crowd wasn't. We had some people here, but it wasn't like a. If I can remember correctly, that was the night it snowed like crazy. And I think that may have limited some people coming here, because if I remember going outside, it probably should have been called off. And I may be wrong, but that's what I kind of remember. Maybe.
I don't remember.
So we were up 14, or okay, let's start. They were 16-4. We were 16-4, and they were 15-4. And we were both 4-0 in the conference. So that's what I should have looked down before I started talking about it. It was 15-14 after the first, 42-34 at halftime, and then we kind of opened it up on them. Then it was 65-48 at the end of the third. So, and obviously we won 83-65. That was, again, we absolutely killed them. I mean, it was just, we were up, I mean, it just seemed like. Crafton had 20. He ended up winning the Player of the Year in the conference, and we talked about that. Back in those days, they never gave it to junior, sophomore, freshman. It was always a senior, even if they won. It was just why it was that way. But Tim had 12 and 9 assists. You guys must have been passing me like crazy. Kyle had 16 and 9 assists. And I had 34 and 15 rebounds. So 34, that's 50. 62 of our points came from the 3 of us.
I think going into that game, I mean, like you said, you pumped up to play against one of the players that was supposed to be, I mean, that was already known in the conference and supposed to be one of the better players. I think as a team, we went into that game knowing that we were trying to prove something, and we knew how good you were, and we wouldn't have traded you for that kid on that team. I think we were trying
to help me out, saying, "Hey, let's get Ken some accolades here
here's
because
your
it's
player of the conference right
yeah,
here."
I mean, we knew we get on your shoulders. You were going to carry us more than anybody else in the conference.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not trying to build any of us up. I didn't know you guys looked at it that then.
Well, I mean, we talked about how our team built up to this point, but I think all of us knew that you were the piece that made us. You were the piece that made us, the strongest team in the area.
Let me ask you this, and it's not about me, but Coach Derek Bailey here has been around a lot of teams, and I have seen this a lot, not a lot, but sometimes in Herman, in girls, especially girls in volleyball and basketball. It seems like there's been some animosity when there was a really good player. No matter if they were a team player or not, it seemed like the girls were somewhat jealous. Was there ever a point in there that you said, "Hey, was like a big piece that you like"? Did you guys ever get together? It's like, "Hey, he's getting enough shit. Let's."
No.
You understand what I'm saying? Have
Yeah.
you ever been part of that team where like,
Yeah.
we're not going to pass it to him.
Oh, yeah.
He's got. I don't know if you
I've-
saw that as a coach or not.
I've seen that plenty of teams.
And especially with you being a junior and the rest of us were seniors. I mean, other than Eric.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like during the summer when you remember we went to team camp that
Yeah.
summer. I mean, maybe it was then when we all realized, what our potential was.
I knew then because we went
Yeah.
down there and we,
Played
I
some
remember
good teams.
Jackson was always good
Yeah,
and they were
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
And we played them pretty tough,
We
and that's
we finished that week
Yeah.
with a decent record, and we played against some good teams. But I mean, by then we already recognized, how our pieces fit together, and I don't. I mean, sure, everybody would have wanted, to get the spotlight put on them. I mean, there's a little bit of that in everybody, but I think as a team, we all knew, hey, we've all got to contribute, and we've got to do what we're capable of, and we've got to recognize what each one of us is capable of. And, I don't
And
remember feeling that way at all.
maybe it would have been different if we weren't friends before
Right.
this all started.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can honestly say, and I hope lots of people watch this, but I truly believe to be as good a team as we were, you cannot have that kind of feeling among your teammates. I think all of us felt we're going to do whatever it takes and support whoever we need to support to get to the highest level
I
that our
agree.
team can get to. And I don't think we ever looked at one guy getting more attention than the other. We were glad when somebody did get the attention and felt like they deserved it.
Well, I distinctly remember, and I know some people are probably going to say, "Kent, you're only putting your numbers on here because you ran them up." No, that's not.
No.
Because if you guys played with me, anyone knows, I never looked at the score. I always went to coach and say, "How many rebounds did I have?"
Yeah.
Because I was one of the leading rebounders both of those years, and the people that have never watched me play, I always took pride because, granted, I could jump. I understand that, but the ball was mine. When it came off the rim, I had the attitude that
Yeah.
it was mine. So it wasn't like I was looking for points. But I distinctly remember Kyle calling me when I got home, and I don't know how he knew. Maybe Carolyn kept track. How many points did you have? Do you know how many points you had? I said, "No, I don't really care how many I had." And he told me, which was kind of a shock because that was the most I've. Obviously, I had some 20-point games, but I do remember. Bring up Dwayne Cretley again. He loves hearing his name. He and Bill Whitaker were the officials that game.
Yeah.
In that article, they kind of talked to them after whoever it was. I don't know if it was Larry or who it was, but they talked about how much fun they had calling a game like that because both of those teams, St. James and ours, played basketball like it was supposed to be played. and we played with such fundamentally sound, and it was like they said it was an easy game to call because it wasn't like a lot of sloppy play, and it was just game has changed so much now, even compared to the 80s and 90s. But it was just like they said, and Dwayne's talked about how Coach Steinoff, how he has a reputation. We could talk on about that forever. I would like to sit down with him, but he's like, I don't know if he would do it or not, but it'd be a good interview to just kind of talk about his life and maybe not really go through each year like this, but just kind of go through the eras of because he had some rough times too where they weren't the best. So we end up beating the mighty St. James, high on life. Then we go to St. Clair. I remember because St. Clair my senior year was here and we throttled them here, but we won 67-50, and Mark Halsey, which I'm not saying this for obvious reasons, but weren't you guys related to him somehow or not?
No.
Or did you guys have like some mutual or family friends or?
We're related to some of his relations.
Okay. I knew there was a tie there somehow, but I didn't know if you guys were like truly related.
Our aunt was married to his uncle, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so Mark was a good player.
One of our uncles was married to one of his aunts.
Right. Yeah.
So he was a good player, and he had Matt D'Elia too, if you remember Matt. He was a bigger kid.
Yeah.
And we were up 11-9, 31-19, so we kind of opened it up there, but then they came back. It was tied 42-42 in the third, and then we outscored them 25-8 in the fourth quarter. And Tim had 10, Kyle had 18, and I had 16. It was kind of if I remember the game, it was kind of like a down.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, we had a high, and it's like, I guess being on drugs, uppers and downers. We're like, yeah, we're here, we're gonna play, but it wasn't. To me, it didn't seem like we had the motivation.
Yeah, I think we were so geared up for St. James, and probably looking at we have to still beat Owensville.
Yeah.
I don't think we thought about St. Clair being the team that.
And they weren't a bad team. I mean,
Right.
I know D'Elia was. I don't know if Mark made it, but D'Elia made it one of the conference teams.
I think he played as a junior. I think he had a really good season.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was a good player.
Yeah.
So I can still remember that game, going there and watching the wrestlers just running. How about that upper rim up there? It was just like looking up, it was like, God, they couldn't do it. So then, to me, this was probably, other than the Clopton game, this was our biggest game of the year. Because to be honest with you, I wanted Greg Waymeyer's ass. I was waiting for him.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the guy I want to go after. So we played him here, and this place was packed. I mean, you can't see it on camera, but I don't know if we had the bleachers on the stage because we usually did that at district. But I know the corners, you could not fit another person in this gym.
People standing at the doors.
And we ended up beating them 78-70, and we were both 6-0 in conference at the time. So unless we would have folded or they would have folded, which I think they may have played St. James after us and beat them. Maybe, I don't remember. But we were down 13-14 in the first quarter. We were tied 30-30 at halftime. We were up 47-43 in the third. And I don't remember. It just did the Gates just open the fourth quarter? I don't know if you guys remember. It's 47-43. We scored 31 and they scored 27 in the fourth quarter. That is 58 points in one quarter.
I remember it being an up and down game, and I guess I'm thinking mostly of the fourth quarter.
God, it was just
I do remember their guard Harrison.
Yeah, he hit some threes.
Started going off.
Yeah,
they had a solid team. You remember Brad Schultz?
Jeff Schultz.
Schultz.
So they had Jeff Schultz. They had Harrison. They had.
And then they had another bigger guy.
Keith Glauser. He had a good game. They had.
Farrell.
Keith Farrell was one of their guards also, and then he had Mark Ruge, which is kind of a Mark Steinbeck type player that just come in and kind of clean up the thing. So when I looked at that, I was like 31-20. That's more than some of these teams scored in a game.
Yeah.
And we were just going after each other. And then Derek this might have been your season high. You had 18 points.
Yeah.
Tim had 15 and 6 assists. Kyle had 12. And I had 23 and 17. So Again, Greg was below me, but it's why, and I guess I'm just trying to sell myself again, which I'm not trying to. It's just like why I didn't get Player of the Year that year
Well, yeah.
is beyond me, because I basically destroyed those two. Now Kenny Overmark, obviously, we didn't guard each other. I guarded Greg, and then I guarded Mike, and I think it was the same way. But so, to be honest with you, that was probably the high of the year, because I knew.
Yeah, that one pretty much wrapped it up.
Yeah.
I mean,
We knew we had at
we
least
knew
a tie for the
Yeah.
we
conference.
knew our last game was against a decent team in Union, but,
Yeah.
but we knew St. James and Owensville were the two that we needed to take care of.
Yeah, thankfully we played them here. It could have been a different outcome if we would have played. I don't know so much about St. James, but Owensville would have been a different setting,
Yeah.
because that gym was much bigger, and that thing would have been,
Yeah.
oh my God, how many people would have been there. So the last game of the regular season, we played Union, and we beat them 72-45. And we're up 22-11 at the first, 39-21 at half, 50-33 in the third. So we outscored them 22-12 in the fourth. And then Tim had 13 and 8 assists. Kyle had 16, Mark had 10, and I had 11 and 17 rebounds. But again, that was a team, of course, it was coached by Steve Nair at the time. It wasn't like they didn't have some talent. They were big also. They had two guys, 6'5", 6'6", and they had Rob Bockhorst, which was probably, he was a good scorer. He was one of the lead upper scorers in the conference, and he had Pat Raper,
Yeah.
which if anyone knows basketball around there or baseball, Pat Raper was, he was limited on height because he was only probably about 6'5",
Yeah,
7",
he's-
somewhere in there.
But I think he played 3 years at varsity.
Yeah.
He was good.
He was really good in junior high.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the end of the year, regular season, and then Kent and Kyle were first team all conference, and Derek and Tim were mentioned, and we were the only team that had 4 all conference players on there. So obviously we were, I guess, surprised some people at the tail end. So to me, I think we were, and I think Coach addressed this too. We were mentally we were drained after the season.
Yeah.
I mean, I just looking at the following games after that, I think we were drained because
Yeah.
we put so much mental determination into winning that to me we had a letdown in some of the scores. Obviously, the last game, yes, but we had districts here in New Haven for what, about the 10th time in a row. It was here,
Yeah.
20th time.
Yeah.
But I do remember hosting the district. That was a huge goal for us. I mean, going back to what we said about our older brother, and watching that team lose to Wellsville here, it had been a long time goal. I remember the two of us hoping that we would get to play Wellsville in
Yeah.
the final in this district to kind
Kind of redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember winning the district on our floor was still a huge goal. I mean, we had already accomplished the conference, so I remember that was our next big goal.
So we play Community R6, Ladonia, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
Ladonia?
Yeah.
Community R6. And we beat them 69-32, so we won by 37. And we were up 17-8 first quarter, 37-17, so halftime, so we're up by 20 already. The third was 58-24, so we're up 34. And I think that's when a lot of the bench guys got a lot of playing time. And I had 16, Kyle had 13, and Tim had 10. So then we make it to I assume we had a bye the first game. Surely there just weren't 4 teams. I guess we had a bye.
I don't remember if there were 8 teams. We wouldn't have had a bye.
We had to because we only played 2 games.
We did only play 2.
Yeah.
Did we play New Bloomfield in the
We
final?
played New Bloomfield in the
Yeah.
finals.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we won.
And we beat them
Yeah.
67-56. It was 14-11 first quarter, 29-21 half, 41-36 in the third. Tim had 17. This may have been my best overall game. Again, I'm not selling me on the Stones. 22 points, 28 rebounds. So I don't know if I was just playing, a lot of the older guys said Tim and Wally would just, or Rich and Wally kind of just play, pass it across the backboard each other. That, or I was like, I kept rebounding my own shot and going over and over, or that, or I snatched everything up on the damn.
Yeah, you were just cleaning up. I believe.
So I don't know, but and then Kyle had 10. So get to the final game, a big deal. I don't know when the last, probably 70, may have been the last time they got out of district without looking through. Maybe someone's watching and wants to make a comment on this, but again, this would be public and they'll be on my YouTube page. Casual conversations with Kent Krufmeyer, but
I don't know the mid 70s as well, but I don't think they won a district title in the 70s.
I mean, we could go out and look at the wall, but it's going to take a while. But
I don't know if we've mentioned. I don't think I've mentioned that yet either. But talking about where we started our desire to become a good team. I do want to mention that our oldest brother Edward was on the 1970 team. So it was was motivating for us to see his name up on the wall in here and want to be the same way.
That's one I always forget. He's one if I could get.
Yeah, he would come.
He would come because I saw him at the gym and I've been retired since 65. Now he's I'd go back to work again. I'm driving for O'Reilly. So he would be one if I get one more to come in here because
he remembers a lot of the.
He was one of the younger players on that team, but he was on that team. And I remember thinking, that's our oldest brother on
obviously in 70 you guys weren't born yet because you were born in 71. Right, it's July 4th, 1971, Independence Day. Was that cesarean or was that a natural birth?
Natural.
What's the chance of that being born on July?
They didn't know they were having twins.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like, hold on, we got another one coming?
That's exactly how
I always forget who's the oldest.
Me.
And how long many minutes apart?
She had me, and then the story is, she said the doctor told her, okay, get ready to push again. And she said, I know you're kidding. And so 7 minutes later,
Really?
They were hoping to have a girl. They didn't even know they were having boys.
Really? Well, that's, it's maybe the mystery that's kind of taken out of now, but it's hard to plan. Now it's easier to plan if you at least know the sex of it. But anyway, so we get ready to go, and I know the town was abuzz, and I can remember it was almost like the scene in Hoosiers where the whole town followed us down to Borgia.
Yeah, I just watched that movie with my son.
I've watched it. I've watched it I don't know how many times. And we play against Clopton, and again, Clopton was ranked number 1 or seeded number 1 in the Montgomery County tournament. I don't know what their record was going into this, but obviously they were big. They had Clay Lockhart, Loggeman Boy, and they had Ryan Shaw, which Ryan Shaw passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they had Scott Parrish, but I don't remember the other guard who it was. But anyway, it was probably, other than the Wellsville game, probably the worst game we played all year. Because we got beat.
Yeah.
But it just...
Well, you had to throw a Herman game in there.
Well, yeah, but it's... Herman may have been the worst, shooting-wise and everything else. But I will tell you, every big game I had butterflies. I mean, not only was a nervous wreck, but it was like I was so amped up for these big games.
Yeah.
And something about that game didn't feel right even on the trip down. It just didn't feel. I don't know if you guys had that feeling or not. It just didn't feel right when we walked in that gym. Something was not.
And I mean, we talk about the rivalry we had with Borgia. I mean, we're going to St. Francis Borgia's gym to play in this big game. So I mean, even that felt kind of weird that we're going down to their gym to play this game against another team that we need to beat. But one other thing I remember that happened, we got in a routine when they would do the introductions before the game. You, I don't know if you remember this, but like they would always call Derek first, then they would call me.
You go by the numbers.
Yeah. And then they would call Kyle. Kyle would stand in between Derek and I. And then when they would call you, and I remember seeing this on the videos, like after our season was over and stuff, you would give 10 to Derek, then you would go up high to Kyle, and then 10 to me. But I remember when they did their introductions for that game, somehow either the mic was messed up or they got the names out of order, but we didn't get introduced the same way as, and I'm not saying that caused us to lose.
No, but that was.
But even that was off.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I mean, no matter how much impact it had on the game, that was screwed up. And I don't remember who it was for, but there was a moment of silence for someone related to St. Francis Borgia. So the game was delayed for a moment of silence.
I don't remember
before.
that.
Yeah, so the whole beginning of the game just felt different.
I mean, it was packed, and I mean,
There were a lot of people there to watch, but yeah.
we were as ready as I think we could have been, but yeah, it did feel weird going into that game.
So obviously, coaches told me this afterwards that he heard from, I don't know from who, that Scott County was worried that they were going to have to play us. And I don't know if it's because speed-wise we would match up with them. Obviously, had Marcus Timmons, which was a very, very, how we would have guarded him would have to be double team, sag in, something.
Biggest test.
Yeah, so they didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
We lost 54-57. We were down 11-16 in first quarter, 26-31 at halftime, 43-44 to third, and Kyle had 17 and I had 14. And I remember, this is going back to one of the earlier video or the sections here that we talked about, we didn't really have any plays.
Yeah.
And I know when I was inside, they did a lot of double teaming, probably almost triple teaming every once in a while if they could get someone. So I was kind of bottled, and I'm not saying it was me. It was all me, but obviously I didn't have as good of a game as I was capable of and what you guys relied on. But there was, he even told me, he said I should have, because I could shoot outside, he said I should have had you go outside and get in the baseline, try to open some of that stuff up to draw them out of there. But, you know, he was early on in his coaching days.
Yeah.
And then nothing, if he sees there's nothing on him, but he said, if I would have known what I knew in the 90s, I could have gotten you guys there. Has he ever said that to you?
Yeah.
Or you guys or not?
Yeah, and he didn't have to say it to me as much as how I saw he went about things
From then
once
on?
I started working with him as a coach. And he was ultra prepared for for postseason, starting with districts and moving on. I mean, prepared for the game to be played and the next one coming after it. And I remember going into that Clopton game, not really knowing what Clopton was as far as a team. We knew who they had and what size they had, but we didn't know what they did.
Yeah, we didn't.
or how
Yeah,
they
I don't
played.
remember working on any kind of defensive scheme.
We did prepare different defense.
Didn't we do like a 1-3-1?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, like the few days before the game,
which is
just to try if
not what we had done against any other teams,
but coach, I think, took a lesson from that, and there was not a time when we had good teams, it was because, I mean, when we did well in the postseason, it was because he prepared himself for it different than he did when he was younger.
Well, I'm not saying we should have been, because honestly, I don't know if I could have remembered all your guys' plays.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if we could.
But if we'd have had a few more plays, even if it wasn't centered around me, to get someone open,
Yeah.
or get Tim a better shot or something, or Kyle or something. Obviously, I think without going through the history of them, this was their closest game other than the state championship game. And they lost to Scott County by, I think, around 10, but Scott Parrish either sprained his ankle the game before, one of those around there, or the semifinal game or something is what I heard. And Scott, I remember him. It wasn't like he was Derek Bailey's speed, but he was just like a slow, methodical point guard. He would walk the ball up. He wouldn't throw it away. He would score when he had to. And I remember Wally Shear doing the tradition of excellence, and he said, yeah, you know, the 67, kind of like his 67 team, but he said, probably like all of us, we'd again anything up from now to be the state championship team, other than this being a good team from '89. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It was obviously it was different for you guys. You guys were seniors. I had another year come back to possibly, and I'm not going to cover the '90 team. Although we had the same record and we lost to Clopton again, this here is the team that everyone remembers, is this '89 team. So, and we were known as the Running Rocks, and I know, I have to say this in a lot of my videos, I know, because there's always someone on there wanting to argue with me. Oh, there's a better way. If you ever get on my Facebook, I show like how to do things, ways I do it.
Yeah.
Inevitably, there's someone on there. I know there's better ways. I always mention that. So I don't know how many points. I know the '67 team liked to run a lot too, and I know Gerling scored a lot of points, and Wally and Rich were juniors then, but we averaged 69.7 points a game. So we averaged almost 70, and we only gave up 52. So we were, on average, we beat teams by 17 points. Now, I know some of those games were 30 and 40. So, and I looked, my senior year, I think we averaged around 65, and maybe gave up around, maybe a little less than that, but we were much more slow, deliberate offense then. But so, and then it was done. It was like, all that work for nothing, it kind of felt like.
There was it did feel like that, but then if you look back on it, I mean, for us to still be talking about it, and as you said, others that still talk to us about how enjoyable it was, and now that it's over, you can look back on it and really think about how much came out of that year, and the friendships we grew from that season and building up to that season. And some people might question you reading off those numbers, but if people really pay attention to those numbers you're reading off, and those are incredible for teams to be able to accomplish night after night in a season. And there were several times you named off when guys had more than 5 assists.
Yeah.
More than one guy had more than 5 assists. And guys are doing well to average 5 assists a game as a point guard or an off guard. We had 2 or 3 guys getting more than 5 assists in several nights. The rebounding that you did, I don't know if it's been matched since then. And those are like video game numbers that you were throwing out
We
there.
played, and I can remember, because I think like any true athlete, you want to win.
Yeah.
And I think it was the same way when I was a senior. There may have been some animosity. Kent's getting all the attention again, but I never felt that way because honestly, like we talked about, I didn't care who scored. My goal was to get to rebounds so we could score.
Yeah.
So it was like, I think a lot of it is we were just so close with each other, which had made it more enjoyable. But not saying they had this, I mean, they had an '87 state champion baseball team, but you know, New Haven was, it's all about basketball and always will be. Mm-hmm. But just the community, I mean, probably more so my mother would cut stuff out. She still cuts stuff out of the paper. So I put it all in the scrapbook, but just to see some of the stuff that people wrote, letters, the editor, and how much that team meant.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say we meant any more than any of the state teams, but for such a dry run, you know, time they won in 59 to 70, it was only 11 years. From 70 to have a team like this, it was 19, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So it was just like the people in New Haven, and I talked about how discouraged, and I haven't honestly been to New Haven games, nothing against the recent years, but once Tim, Mr. Strobel left and Coach Dinoff, it just doesn't feel the same. Maybe it's because I played for them or him, but look at how many of the older people in New Haven, same spot every game. when we were there. I mean, I just distinctly remember the same spot,
Yeah.
and that's why I wanted to do the video. It's like, again, we're not state champions. A lot of them I'm covering state champions, but just the impact we had. And
I know clearly the conference championship isn't the same as winning a state championship, but the fact that we did accomplish winning that conference championship and not losing to one team in the conference, which hadn't been done recently in the Four Rivers Conference, I mean, I feel like that was something that we can be really proud of. Even if we didn't finish all of our goals that year, I mean, we still did something that hadn't been done in quite a while. And if you look up on that banner that's in here, I mean, it hasn't been repeated that many times. So
no, Tim Stroll, and I know, Dwayne Cretley, I know. You guys played home and home back in the day, so you had 2 games, and they went several years winning it. But again, back then it was quite the event for Herman because they were the second smallest school in the conference.
Yeah.
I mean, still are.
Yeah.
But if you look, and we're not going to show you, but 67 was the last year before we did it. And then we won it in 89 and 90, and they won it again in 98. That's the year New Haven got 3rd.
Yeah.
And they won it in 2011. Now, you were part of that 2011 team. Do you remember, was that maybe the year that we talked about earlier, that Eric Engelbrecht and them were, Luke, or Lance Gerleman and those guys?
Quarterfinal that year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That's the year we lost the quarterfinal game, and it would have been like there were 3.
Or is that when Williman was there?
Started.
And
2011.
and Block.
Didn't you guys get pretty far the year when, was it Fleer?
Yeah, that would have been
Eli
with
Fleer
Engelbrecht.
was with Engelbrecht and
But they got beat here
Austin
by Wellston
Pyrick.
that one year. But I know that one year when they had Williman and Austin and them, and Austin and Aaron, they went pretty far.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the conference champs.
No. That would have been I don't know.
We went to the quarterfinal 2 different times while I was coaching that we didn't win. And one of the years was when Engelbrecht and Eli Fleer were seniors. The other year would have been when Austin Block and
Jordan Williman.
Aaron Pyrick, Jordan Williman, those guys were playing.
But another thing I always think about, you wonder, okay, the success we had that year. I mean, people can say, well, yeah, but look at the competition you played against compared to other years. I mean, I hear people bring that up every once in a while, but you look at Owensville that year, and Montgomery City that year, in South Callaway, and Borgia. I mean, didn't Owensville make it to
Yeah, they made it to the quarterfinal.
Yeah, and I know South Callaway. It seems
think
like
they might
when we
have.
talked to Danny Thomas, didn't they lose in a round to Cuba?
I thought it was Bourbon. I thought Bourbon beat them.
No way, we killed Bourbon. No way.
Bourbon wasn't good that year. I thought they
It could have been
lost to
Cuba. Cuba was pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
But
Cuba beat
I mean,
us
we
that
almost,
year.
and then if you add, and I mean, a lot of people can do that, but if you add up the amount of points that we lost by out of those 5 games, that our season could have easily ended with us losing 1 or 2 games.
Okay, we got a little bit of time. We're at 39 minutes, so we're going to wrap this up because I know most people don't like watching more than about 30 minutes. So we lost to 3. You're the math teacher. Here we go. 3 to Clopton.
Pretty sure it's 16 total.
1 to Herman. So there's
4.
4. Let's start at the top. It's easier because it's easier for me. So we lost a 2 to Montgomery. There's 2. We lost to Cuba. That makes it by 1. So there's 3.
And then wasn't it 9 to South
9
Carolina?
at Callaway. So there's 12. 15. Yep. 16.
Yeah. And then 5
South
games.
Callaway, we beat the second time
Yeah.
we played them.
So, and I promise we're going to finish this up. And you brought up an interesting point that there might have been the teams that made it very far with those other teams. But every one of those teams, those good teams, had prolific scorers on there, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, they have 2 guys averaging 10 points. I mean, they had some people that, believe me, Crafton and Waymeyer and Obermark, they opened it up on some people.
Yeah.
So, it even Callaway and Cuba, the Reinsch kid, there's another one on, I remember the Reinsch kid, but there was another one on there that was pretty good also.
Yeah.
So-
I think they ended up having a decent season. And I mean, everyone can say, what could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't walk around thinking about that all the time, but if you really dig into the numbers, I mean, what we did was impressive. I mean, for what we were doing. I mean, in a basketball sense, for the year that we had, it was about as much as we could have accomplished that year without being completely set.
Because really, other than the Callaway game when they beat us by 9, those other 4, especially the Herman game, again, if we would have shot 50%, we would have killed them.
Yeah.
And then I know this has been going on 36 years ago, or we're 36 years now, but I appreciate you 2 setting down. I wanted to do this. I know I haven't talked to you much, but I wanted to try to cover some of these because as my new friend from Herman, Steve Wishhouse is his name. Don't let these stories die. He said that about Herman, keep them going. And there's, like the baseball team, if you guys, those are 2, that one and Tim Otten video, Cretley, and Coach Carey are the ones I couldn't get converted over to YouTube. I can if I really want to dive into it, but it's like Tim, there's just a lot of them, it's like, I know you guys were part of that. It's like, I don't remember any of that. So, I'm sure Mr. Robert Brown, he's going to agree to sit down with about 2001, but he said he's learned a lot from these. He says, I enjoy doing it. So I always say if people get enjoyment, I get as much fun as talking to people as I do putting them up, but if people can relive some of this stuff, and I mean, some of these videos, the Cretley one, I think a part of it has 3,700 views, which is pretty good for just kind of doing, you've seen it, bare basic stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will enjoy this. I know a lot of them were people that we grow up with, that I'm friends with, will probably watch it, but I do appreciate you taking your time out on a Sunday, cold Sunday afternoon, but what else are we gonna do? I'm gonna go to the gym after this. You guys are gonna go watch football, so.
Hey, I mentioned.
Tell a story. We're at 43 minutes, so we got to wrap it up here.
Well, I mentioned one day we were standing here for practice the other day when we didn't have school. I invited the kids out just to shoot, but I told one of the other coaches that was out here, I said we just came to our second home. We grew up hanging out in this gym, and there's really not much better place for me to be other than in this gym, on this court, and it's become part of our lives and built so much of our lives. It's great to have a chance to sit in here and just
Talk about it?
Yep, remember good things.
Well, and the thing about it is, and I've talked this about, with other people. Rest his soul. As you know, I thought a lot to my Uncle Tim Strobel. I know a lot of people didn't like him. But if you really knew what he was about, how could you not like him? But he always, and I'm not saying we didn't have access before, but when he got here, there was never a time we couldn't get in there.
Yeah.
He had a key, hid under the rock. Everyone knew it was out there. I got a key eventually. Other people had keys, but in this community, now it was the community auditorium. And I'm not excluding or downplaying the cross country or track championships, because I am going to talk to Coach John Tucker about it. Now he's going to have to fill me in a lot, because I'm familiar when they won, but there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 state championship teams who have played on this floor. Now I know Herman's had 15 volleyball and a girls basketball. I understand that, but I said it in my Dennis Carey video. I don't know many schools around that have more of a variety of state championships than New Haven.
Yeah.
You're just usually dominant, like Lynn, cross country track, Fatima, softball, baseball,
Scott County
basketball. All basketball.
Yeah.
Obviously, Borgia has some, but Borgia, as a parochial school, is a little different. And being this small, to have this kind of variety, and it's probably even more rare now, is because there's so much emphasis on basketball, is truly the track.
Yeah.
So it's just, I like coming in here. I talked about before, I don't know if I said it on here, but then we're going to end it up because we're 46 minutes now. But if I ever am not burnt out of being a cop, I would love to come back here and be a school resource officer. Now, I'm burnt out, and who knows if I'm ever going to get out of that. So we're going to cut it off here. I hope you tell your friends, family, whatever, hey, we got interviews. Like I said, it's going to be public on my end. If you become friends, there's a lot that some controversial stuff, as you will see, that I do not want out in public. But not that I don't want it, but I don't want to stir the pot any more than I've stirred in my career or my life. So, but it'll be on my Facebook or the YouTube page also. And until next time, you guys have anything else you want to say? Tim wants to say one more thing.
The last thing I want to say is I hope one day New Haven gets back to the level where they can put up another basketball state championship. I mean, it's been down for the last few years, but that was always our goal, to see New Haven get another state championship. So I hope it returns to this school, just out of our loyalty to it, that they get back to that level someday.
Well, I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I'm going to point on camera. You see my finger? This guy right here. Now, Tim's not going to send his boy here. Is he in 8th grade?
Yeah.
Where's he going to go?
He's going to Washington.
Washington?
Yeah.
But this guy right here, Derek, Coach Derek, has a son that's a pretty good player. And I heard that group there may be...
They have high hopes.
There's some hopes in that there. Now, what's coming after that is I don't know. But I will tell you this, that I haven't talked to Kyle Wolf or Tim Shear about it, but I know, talking to Keith and Robert Brown and those in that era, I think by them watching the year I'm describing, and maybe the second year when I was a senior, seeing us play, that probably inspired them. Maybe not all, but I'm sure, hey, we want to be like them or better, which obviously they were. 97, 98, and 99, first, third, and first.
Yeah.
2001 first. So, yeah, we'll see. What are you going to do? Well runs dry, runs dry. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's very fortunate to me living in Herman. The well doesn't run dry very often for volleyball up there. So, yeah. So, all right, everyone have a good day.